Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Business of Business. I'm Roy. The focus of this show is to bring professionals and experts from all disciplines to help our small solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, smaller businesses to give them some tools to hopefully be more successful, but then also give them some resources just in case they need to reach out and get some help. Today, we have an awesome guest, Ellisen Wang. He is an email copywriter, author, publisher of How to Become an Email Titan. He also publishes a daily copywriting, email marketing, and business tips on his blog. He has helped clients in many different industries, including not for profits, startups, e commerce, businesses, real estate, and tech companies writing engaging sales emails that their subscribers look forward to reading. Ellison, thanks for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Oh yeah. No, thank you for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah. No, we got hooked up over. You kind of stood out for me with this email writing because it's become so important. It used to everybody opened every email they got. Now it's kind of just the opposite. A lot of people, if they even use email anymore, a lot of people just they don't recognize it, they ditch it, or put it over in the pile to open when they have more time later in the week, and sometimes that never happens. So, writing an engaging email where people, like you said, look forward to it. It's such an important part of our outreach these days.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
So, I guess let's just start at the beginning. Is this gonna, I guess we could talk about a couple different things. One would be a one-on-one. You're writing an email to me where maybe we've had some previous contact, or I looked at your website, but then also more of a bulk email type thing going out to a lot of prospects. Let's start with that one first. If we got a new product, we got a new offer, so we're gonna blast an email out to all of our everybody on our email list. Where do we start with that? I know intuitively that I guess the subject line is going to be the very most important thing.
Yeah. Um well, let's see. So let's talk about it assuming that like the people that you're emailing to they've been on your list for a while. Is that like
Right.
a safe
Yeah.
assumption to make? Yeah. So let's see. So I think the first place I would start with is like what is the problem uh, that your product is solving. Okay, and then what I like to do is I like to write a series of emails that really um, pinpoint on those not products, those problems.
Okay.
And the reason why is that you know when people read about problems that they can relate to, it's naturally engaging. So, and just and it's really the whole psychology behind like talking about problems, listening to drama and everything. It really ties into a little bit of that. That's why you know people love those reality TV shows and the whole thing
Right.
about gossiping and everything like that. Um, so that's where I would start with. And then once you have those down, once you have like the problems pinpointed, um, what I like to do is I like to write the email and I like to write a story that kind of relates to those problems. And again, stories, they're naturally engaging, where our brains are pretty much hardwired to be engaged to those stories, to storytelling. Um, and yeah, so once we get into the story, what I do next is just figure out how you can tie that story into the product or service you're selling. And then once you get to the end um, of that email, that's when you do your whole your whole pitch and everything like that, and then paste the link that'll get them to the sales page where they can read more about it and buy your product and service. So yeah, so that's really the main approach of how I go about
Okay.
how I would go about it.
Okay, and you mentioned in the beginning, you said a series. So, what do you consider a good number for a series of outreach emails?
So let's say if we're doing a launch that's like, I don't know, 5 days long, what I would do is I would do, I mean, usually I do like one email a day. So like for my personal example, um, when I open my application to new clients and things like that,
Hmm.
I usually send one email a day, sometimes two emails a day. Um, and then on the last day, uh, I do one email it, early in the day, and then one maybe like a few hours before the deadline. So, so what I'm trying to say is like when you're doing, these launches, uh, it's good to be, you know, a little more aggressive with the emailing, is what
Okay.
I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the length. If we want to tell a story, some of us are a little bit wordy. Non-writer types. We tend
Mm-hmm.
to think, sometimes we think more is better, and it not always the case. And there's that debate, and it's a little bit off the topic, but we'll just use blogging for example. There's the mindset that shorter is better, attention spans are shorter. But then if you look
Mm-hmm.
at rankings, it's like more content, more words tend to have more eyes on them. So with emails, what is the strategy with length?
Uh, hmm. I mean, I like to keep mine relatively short. I usually keep mine around usually 300 words because I know that people get a lot of emails a day and
Yeah.
they're busy, you know, so they don't have time to read like a 1,000 word email. But
Yeah.
there are situations where I see people emailing um, a pretty lengthy email. Like there's one copywriter I know who sometimes when he launches a product or an affiliate product, right, he would
Hmm.
interview the owner of the product and he would get that interview transcribed, break into like 3 or 4 different parts, and
Okay.
then he would just send that out.
Okay.
And then at the end, he would um, paste, the affiliate link. So as a result, the reader, they get, a little bit of education from that interview transcript, and then they also have, a lot of opportunities to buy. So, um, so it's, I want to say it doesn't really matter because as long as they hear from you, because that's what really matters. It's like the relationship you build with your readers, the connections you make, and just the constant contact with them. You know,
Okay.
um, yeah. And as long as you send, relevant, interesting information, they'll be, they'll be more than happy to hear from you.
Yeah.
Regardless.
So at one point there used to be a kind of a tip, I guess you could say, that you put the person you're sending it to, their name in the subject line.
Mm-hmm.
So is that still a thing? Or I guess what it tried to translate was that you knew them, and it made it a little more personable than just because every now and then I get emails where somebody forgot to put it the insert the names in. So you get one that's either to the wrong name or to just hi with no name, or the little symbol that where you
Yeah.
insert name. And so anyway, there it was a theory at one time, like put the person's name in the email subject line. That kind of makes it a little more personable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, when I before I did the copywriting thing, I used to run a blog where
Mhm.
I taught people how to build their own computers and how to improve gaming. So it was in that niche.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then so I set up like a whole autoresponder series when people opt into my email list. And yeah, so for me, when you add the name to subject line and things like that, uh, I do it for like the initial email just to get their attention a little bit.
Okay.
Um, but then once you build, the initial foundation, the relationship with them, and they get familiar with their name, and then they like what you read, I found out that what you write in the subject line matters a little bit less. And it's really more of, oh, if it's from you, if they see your name,
Right. Right.
uh, you know, they're gonna want to open it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another point too. Is you have a choice on the top of your email, or in when you set it up, you can put. And this is more for like a solopreneur, entrepreneur, but you can put what people see as the name.
Hmm.
You would see my name. Does it matter if we put the company name, or is it better to put the person's name? Can they relate more if it's an individual than the company, or how does that work?
Yeah, I always advise to put your personal name just to make it seem just to seem a little bit more human, like people want to hear from an actual person rather than a company, like a I like to call it a faceless company. um, but yeah, it really adds like that human aspect to it, because like would you rather hear from a company or a friend? It's like that
Yes.
whole
Yeah.
thing. um, I remember one of the old marketers, Gary Halbert. He taught a seminar about like mail advertising,
Hmm.
and he had this whole lesson about pile A, pile B, where if someone gets mail that's from like a faceless company, it would go in pile A, which is the garbage pile. And then if it looks like it's from, a friend or a person, it would go in pile B, and then that's likely to get open more. So that same concept, uh, also I apply it to email as well.
Okay. Okay. And so on you talked also about using autoresponders. What is a good, I guess, what is the situation where the autoresponders work well versus the human kind of sending out more personalized emails once there's a response?
Um, wait, can you kind of clarify that a little bit more?
Yeah, just like if you send out, I guess, a bulk, and then
Mm-hmm.
if somebody clicks a link or something that's in the email, then maybe that sets off a secondary email that comes back to them. And I'm just wondering, what is you know if you have a huge gigantic list, I understand that it's a little bit more complex, but with smaller
Yeah.
lists, is it better to maybe handle those individually? And I guess that would just really depend on the volume that you're sending out.
Um, hmm. I think if you have, I mean, if you're dealing with a smaller list, um, I mean, I still recommend that you do some type of like trigger automation. Like that's the one where you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So like yeah, trigger automation. I still suggest that you set that up, just so it saves you time, you know? Um, and yeah, that's what I used to do for my blog as well. Uh, yeah, it definitely saved me a lot of time. You know, I could just, using that time, I could just use it for, other things as well, like, writing, developing, um, my website and growing my email list and things like that. Um, but now I really simplified it. Um, so for me, like I email daily, and there's what I do is like when people opt into my email list, they get that initial email, that welcome email,
Yes.
where I tell them what's going to happen, what they expect, um, and that that free opt-in bribe that I promised. And then after that, I just send them a daily email. You know, so yeah, my ways is very simplified. Um, you don't have to do it that way. It depends on the business, really. Um, but if there is a need for you to set up those trigger automations, I do recommend you do it. It does save a
Okay.
lot of time, and it adds to the personalization as well.
So you mentioned that you have a like a subscription, a bribe to get people to opt in. What do you typically offer?
Me personally,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, or yeah, or just what would be a good suggestion? Is it just, more information, or is it like a maybe a special series on some topic or?
yeah. So, I mean, me personally, so my book, How to Become an Email Titan, I promote the sample chapters of it. Um, but one really good suggestion is, I mean, number one, like if you're going to give away information, make sure it's something that once the person gets it, they can implement it right away. Otherwise, they're going to get it, download it, and then probably it's just going to sit on the computer forever and just unopened. Um, Another thing is that if it's possible, offer something that has like a real retail price tag on it, just so it seems, a lot more, it just seems a lot more valuable, like that seems more valuable compared to, just some random ebook you made in just like 1 week. You know what I mean?
Okay, right, right.
So yeah, maybe like an old discontinued product that you used to sell, but you don't really sell anymore, so you're willing to give away for free, or maybe like an unpublished book, which I thought about doing as well. Um, but it's just a matter of me sitting my butt down and actually writing it.
Yeah, exactly. So what about the? Let's talk about the form of the content of emails. Again, there's the theories of you write very professionally, not over people's head, but you don't write like you speak. And unfortunately, I'm one of the guys that I write just like I speak. And I
Hmm.
usually that works for me because people that typically people I'm emailing usually know me, and so it's not as big of a deal. But what is the what is your suggestion on that? Should we kind of just write it the way that we are, or should we go back and kind of clean it up? And I'm not talking about grammatical errors or misspelled words. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about word usage, different things like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of like just like you. I kind of also write how I speak as well. So my tone is very casual, right? Um, and there's several reasons why I do that. Number one, it's a lot easier, right? and it helps my writing process become, faster. But also it's fun to write when you like write how you speak. And
Right.
my way of thinking is if you have fun writing your emails, then the person who's reading it is going to have fun reading it, you know? Yeah, so it's not always necessary to, be super sophisticated and everything like that. Um, I know that that's kind of how like at least my college kind of teaches me how to do it, but it's it's just plain boring, And
Yeah.
one of the things about emails that like it's good to like have some educational value out of it, but it's also important to be entertaining as well, you know.
Yeah.
Um, because if it's not fun to read in the first place, no matter how valuable it is, um, they're not going to be able to get to the end of it, you know.
Well, and it's things have changed a lot for some old guys like myself. Back when the internet first came around, everything was very formal, no emotion or no personality injected. And I think we've come a long way, not even designing our websites, but also our emails. Is that people want to, they want to get to know who you are. People buy from people who they like, of course. And so I think kind of interjecting a little bit more personality uh, into emails is, we don't want to get crazy and be unprofessional. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. But as long as we keep it
Yeah,
professional, but we can have a little bit of personality interjected, I think that's a good thing.
yeah, it is. And it also depends on like what you want your personal brand to be, because there's a lot of different people I follow. Some of them are more professional. Some of them are more they're more they're more polarizing. So it really
Right.
depends on how you want to set yourself up in front of people. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I definitely
Which
agree that.
that brings up a good point. I was reading an article the other day about this was more about advertising, but it was should you introduce the shock value into your ads? So
Mhm.
let's kind of talk about that in emails. A lot, of course, depends on our, like you said, our business, our brand, but does does the shock value of saying something, kind of crazy in our email, does that have any does that add any value or get us any more click throughs or look throughs than just putting out good information?
Yeah, it's definitely going to get some more engagement. Like I've tested it myself because in the past I've written emails that uh, it's like on the edge of controversial, a little bit.
Yeah.
So a few examples. I talked a little bit about how the uh, the beauty standard is just unrealistic, and people just shouldn't even pay attention to it. Basically, um, I also gave my I just talked about my political beliefs. So that you know just politics itself gets
Yeah.
very it gets crazy, you know.
Yes, it does.
Um,
Yes.
but yeah, I got into it a little bit without going a little bit overboard, but it does get engagement from it, and of course that leads to sales. Uh, but yeah, for like the shock value thing, you kind of want to do it. You kind of want to do it sparingly. You don't want to do it so many times where that kind of becomes the norm, and then that effect just diminishes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just
Yeah, and
once in
I
a
think
while
it's
kind of
like
thing.
I think you're right on using it sparingly, and I'll just compare it to we used to have like nighttime soap operas, and they would be really good. Like their first season, they would be good, but then they would do crazy stuff, and so then the next show they had to do something crazier, and then the next one
Yeah.
crazier until it got to a point that it was unbelievable. And so I think I think we could do the same thing with our emails. It could just get to a point, it either you're going to turn people off or it just gets to the absurd that nobody's listening anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what is your thought on A/B testing? I've always thought that it's a good idea, but I had a guest on not long ago that was just we were talking about the fundamentals of it and things like uh, who saw it, what time of day, were they in need. There's a lot of variables behind it that his position was it's just not worth it. Do you have an opinion on that?
Uh, yeah, I would have to agree also that it's really just not worth it. Like I've tried it on my old blog thing, and the results is just not worth the effort. Um, so like it again, it really comes down to the relationship building with your readers, and the thing I said before, that as long as they get familiar with you,
Yeah.
they like the content that you give them, um, it really doesn't matter what you write on the subject line or whatever you're testing.
Right.
um, if they see it's from you, then they're gonna be willing to open it and read it, and see what you have to say. So yeah, split
Yeah.
testing is just, you know,
Yeah. I mean, and again, he actually, after we discussed it, it kind of changed my beliefs a little bit. I'm kind of the same way, is that all the variables, if we took a group of 50 people, two groups of 50, all the variables aren't going to be the same for each one of them. So, it could be very, very misleading, uh,
yeah.
the
And there's a
results of
lot of
that. So,
other factors as well that's going to affect, the
right.
results.
Exactly.
So it's just
Yeah,
not reliable.
exactly. Exactly. Uh, well, I had one more thought, and I guess that has escaped me. So, oh, what I was going to say, talking about the A/B testing, another good thing that we need to realize as email senders is we are not going to be for everybody. And so, if
Hmm.
we send out 100 emails and we don't get 100 responses, doesn't mean our email was bad. It doesn't mean our product service. It just means that those people weren't interested. I mean, it could be bad emails, it could be bounce, it could go to spam. I mean, there are so many variables again that go into that, but we have to be very patient. And uh, unfortunately, in sales, we have gotten very impatient to, we want to make a phone call, we want to reach out with one email and expect somebody to hit the buy button with with lower dollar items, $3 $4 $5. I think you have a much better chance people will take a chance on that. It's not a lot of loss. But if you're selling high ticket items, five, $10 $20,000 services, then we have to be patient. We have to take the old agrarian view that we have to plant, we have to cultivate before that we can reap the benefits of that. So again, patience, patience.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. All right, Ellison. Well, thanks for taking time out of your day. What is a tool that you use? It could be in your business life, it could be in your personal life, but what is something that you do that you use daily, or a habit that you just couldn't do without?
Hmm. A habit. Yeah. So one thing that I do, so like I said, I email every single day, right? So, and because of that, I always need to have like a constant flow of new ideas. to write about. So one of the habits that I do, actually, yeah, one of the habits that I do is that I sit for 20, 30 minutes in a quiet room by myself, and I just think of new ideas to write. I always try to come up with at least three, but more is better. Um, and I just write them down. You know, like just yeah, and just do just like a just block out time to just do a brainstorming session.
Okay.
Um, and then another one, if I can say,
Yes.
I also journal. I also journal every day. So,
Okay.
and I don't journal in a way where I like just put a timer for like 15 minutes and just write. I always uh, set a goal for myself to write at least 750 words each day. And
Wow.
when you do that, number one, your tolerance for writing becomes a lot higher. So writing an email every day for me now is just effortless, right? It just feels like I don't know, it's just light work to me, you
Yeah.
know. So and then also when you journal, you also get a lot of email ideas as well. And fun fact, the cover for my book, I actually got that idea one day when I was journaling. So yeah, journaling really helps. I totally recommend it. It's good therapy too if you need that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, journaling
Yeah.
and then just the brainstorming session.
Yeah. No, you make two good points. I think first off is the creativeness. And there was I heard a professional that spoke on this not long ago, and it was focused more on children. But I think we as adults can have a takeaway from that is that when you are so heavily scheduled, your brain does not have time for that creative thought. And so, that's kind of like, back in the pre-electronic day. You talking about how old I am, but pre-electronic days when kids had to think about, they had to make up stuff to do on their own, but they had time to be creative. And like writing, it takes unless you just have a huge inspiration. I mean, you have to sit down and it needs to be thoughtful, the subject, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, what order you're going to say it in. So anyway, to make carving out that time every day just to be creative and think about what we want to say is important. And then I've also heard, and there's a couple of systems out there where you can, they will prompt you to write 350 to 500 words a day, and that's exactly what it is. It's supposed to it's just like walking or running. You're supposed to build up your endurance to be able to write easily. So
Yeah.
those are both good tips. Now, when you journal, do you journal pen and paper, or do you journal on a computer?
Uh, I do it on the computer. I do it on a
Do you?
computer. It's much faster, um, and it's just less tiring as well. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Ellison. Well, thanks a lot for taking time out of your day again. We certainly appreciate it. If you could tell everybody how they could reach out and get a hold of you, and if they want to get on your email list or look at your blog, how could they do that?
Yeah. So they can go to my website. It's ellisenwang.com. ELLISENWANG.com. And then when you go there, you'll see a splash page where you can opt in to get the sample chapters of how to become an email titan, which are basically just handpicked chapters just to get you started on like building an email list and um, my methods of writing email. If you don't want to do it, that's fine too. You can just go to the homepage and then you'll see my blog where I have all my daily tips there. So it's your choice.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Ellison. We appreciate it. Again, this has been the Business of Business podcast. You can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. Of course, we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find us on all the major podcast platforms: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and you can also find a video of this conversation on YouTube when it's posted as well. So until next time, take care of each other.